We here at Mililani High School are celebrating our school's 50th anniversary. To commemorate this monumental year, we are recording 50 interviews from 50 different people who have shaped the school into what it is today. This is Mililani High School's 50th anniversary. Today's interview is with Stephanie Grande-Misaki, a 1990 grad who has become an integral part of our school through hard work and great humility. This is a peek behind the scenes as to how she keeps the school running as well as it does.
Well, I've been an English teacher for the last, I don't know how many years. Since 2008, I transferred back to Mililani High School. And I've taught everything from 9th through 12th grade and advanced placement, speech communication. And then, let's see, what else do I do? I also help with the advising graduation, as well as the blood drive that we've had.
Very successful blood drives.
Probably over the last 10 years or so. In addition, this year I started teaching a new course, which is called Foundations of Education and the Teaching as a Profession Pathway.
Yeah. You made a real sacrifice to leave the classroom, in a sense, to spend more time with teachers who are going to be going and doing internships across the street, and we're of course investing in the next generation of teachers. So talk to us about your philosophy and your approach to people who want to do jobs like us and or work alongside us in the future.
It's a really challenging job. You know, like 25 years ago, I think we were able to do a lot more teaching, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Now there's so much more responsibilities placed upon teachers, as far as not just working with parents and community, but there's a lot of other expectations from the state and from, looking at testing and looking at curriculum, just all of these other initiatives that are taking place where we had a lot more freedom. It's very different. Even students are different, I feel. Just within the last 5 years, there's been a lot of changes. You talk about social emotional learning. COVID and that isolation, I think, really did a number on not just the students, but the teachers as well, and how we approach learning. I think there's been great advancements, especially with regards to technology, but because of that, I think that also kind of took out some of the human side of it, and so we're trying to infuse that back into how we approach students. And really my philosophy is, how do I make a connection with the person who's sitting in front of me, whether it is a student or a fellow colleague, my principal. What is that connection I'm going to have with them? And building that relationship is something that I really feel is valued and worthwhile to spend time on. And so I'm trying to spend more time building those relationships with my students. But it's an honor, I think, for you and for others to believe in me, and for even my department to kind of endorse me to be the department chairperson. But taking on a leadership position, it gives me a new perspective on how the school is run, and how just the dynamics of working with different people. There's a lot of personalities in our school, and of course in our department as well. And so kind of navigating that is a little bit different. I try to lead by example. I try to model what I expect of my teachers to do and to be. So I try and model that. So if I'm expecting them to, to put in a little bit of extra time or to volunteer their time, I'm also going to do the same thing. I'm going to do the work alongside them. So I'm not a taskmaster kind of person. I'm more, let's work together, very collaborative, and that's how I approached it.
You think about school and the school that we went to versus the school that we lead now. What do you think are some of the similarities and differences?
There's definitely I feel like there's definitely way more activities.
Oh yeah.
Our student activities coordinator is awesome. Also, alumni but the kinds of events that she puts on, beyond just the normal, prom and winter ball, those kind of pep rallies, there's just a multitude of activities and things like that. When we were in school, I wouldn't say I was the most spirited person, but when I reflect on it, I think I was involved in many different things, which I see a lot of my students doing the same thing, right? They try different things each year. From when I was a freshman, my really good friend, her dad was the JV coach, football coach. And so I was like the statistician for the football team that first year. But I also was in marching band, mostly because my brother was in marching band.
That's true.
And I didn't want to be actually after that first year marching band, I decided I didn't want to be in his shadow, because he kind of was a bright shining star in the marching band.
Still is a fantastic musician.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, from that freshman year, then in my sophomore year, I was able to kind of branch out and do different things. So I joined some clubs. I also I'm not an athlete, but I always kind of was a periphery, like on the outskirts of it. So in addition to kind of helping with the football team, I used to help manage the girls basketball team. So Nick Tamandong was one of the coaches, and Miss Peng or Miss Sakamoto was also one of the coaches. And so this was like before the times of athletic trainers. I don't even know when athletic trainers became a thing.
I don't know either. Maybe mid-2000s.
Yeah. But when, as a manager and statistician, we actually had to tape the girls' ankles.
Oh,
which
you were the athletic trainer with no training.
We had no training, but I remember having to tape them. And this, of course, is a time of Ma'atanuvasa's 3 sisters all play basketball, so it helped them. So I did that, but I also was on the news writing staff, so I was part of the Trojan Times. I wasn't even though I was an English teacher, I wasn't a great writer in school.
Sure.
I think
Came later.
Yeah, I think my English teachers really pushed me to become better, but Miss Tanaka never gave me a byline. She was like, do it over again. And a byline means you get to put your name for the article. And by the second year in news writing, I was also in photography. She said, "Oh, I hear you're in photography class. Maybe you could be the photographer instead." That was like her way of saying, maybe this writing thing's not for you.
I bet you she's going to watch this. She does watch these, so.
So just, when I think about it, I was just part of all these different facets of it. So even though, when I look back, I wasn't like spirited, I certainly had my hand in different activities. And then, of course, clubs. Was part of the Key Club and the Interact Club as well. And so, just being part of all those different things.
So I'm sure you get this question. I get it all the time. They'll say things like, how do you manage those kids? Or, kids of today are so, and they'll fill in the blank, right? And it's usually a kind of a negative descriptor. And I usually will say something along the lines of, yeah, but if you get to meet these kids, like, I'm inspired for the future. And tell me, where do you fall in that spectrum of about these kids and what we deal with on a daily and what their future will be like?
I really enjoy working with the students. Every day brings something new. Just this, like the last period I had, one of my students asked me, did you always want to be a teacher? And I had to tell him, I didn't. And I think part of that, the reason why, is because of the experiences that I had at Milani High School. I actually was in mechanical drafting. I really loved it. Like Mr. Creasy.
It was Mr. Creasy, right?
He was my mechanical drafting teacher. He even I was outstanding mechanical drafting
there you go.
Student of the year. So I thought for sure I'm going to be an engineer.
Or an architect.
I took engineering the next year, and then I had Mr. Asparis, physics, and I really loved physics. I mean, I excelled in science and math, and I thought for sure I was going to go into a field of STEM. And then I got to college, and it was like, I don't want to do that anymore. And I think because we had many opportunities here, I feel like our students have double or triple the amount of opportunities that we had. I think that really kind of propelled me my mom was a teacher, and so back to the story with my student, I told him, my mom was a teacher. She taught at our rival school, Lelakua, and she said she'd never wear brown and gold, right? She's like a mule to the end, but she discouraged me from being a teacher. And,
most of us do. Most of us discourage our own children from going to the profession. So yeah.
And so it's kind of in the back of my mind, I was like, no, I'm not going to be a teacher. But in the end, what I ended up telling the student was, it kind of was meant to be. I mean, I had done tutoring. I helped students when I was in college. I used to work with ESL students, and then I had done like a shadowing at a middle school. And I thought, oh, I think I could do this, and I had a real passion for it. At the time, like I said, I wasn't good at English. I wasn't the best writer, but I think in college I really flourished and thrived, and I had passion for writing and literature, and I thought, I could help, these students. I think I could get them, because being literate in our society today, I think that is super important.
Well, to be discerning of information is so incredibly important now, because we have all of these places and where we can get our news or our facts, and to be able to understand what you're looking at and to spot a fake and not to depend on AI, etc.
And that has definitely evolved from when we first started teaching, where we didn't even have
our big problem was Google at the time, right? And now Google is just part of our DNA, and now we have those new challenges.
Yeah.
Well, okay, how about some shout outs? Who are some of the great educators that you had here at Minalani High School, or maybe things that you learned from some people who really helped to kind of shape your path?
Well, I mentioned some already, right? Mr. Christie, Mr. Tamandong. At the time, he taught photography, and he actually was going to sound kind of bad, but I know he was a social studies teacher. He loved to talk. I think just his relationship, his rapport, played music in our photography class, but he really cared about us, and I think that was super important. When I came back to teach here, he was still here, and I got to tell him that, that's kind of nice to hear, I think, especially from, I was an adult student adult at the time, and we don't often hear that from our students. Mrs. Kotake, for sure, was one of my standout teachers. When we were in school, we had the mod system, and I just remember I had her my junior year, we were mod 6, and again, you had to get a B or better or something. There was like certain requirements before you could be moved on to the next level. And she really pushed me. She said, hey, you got a C on this paper. I know you can improve. I'm gonna redo it. And so I redid the essay. And at the end, she's like, I'm gonna, she recommended me to go into AP class, which I thought, I'm not AP.
And back then we only had a couple of AP
English
classes, not 22.
Yeah, and I was like, no, I don't think I could do AP English. She's like, I believe in you. And I think that really sparked me into going into that path, because she really had faith in me, and not just me. I mean, I saw her work. I had a student, a classmate who, I think she was pregnant that year. She was pregnant in my English class, but just the way that she interacted with her students, it didn't matter, if you were like what level you were. I mean, she treated all students as a unique individual and was going to push them to where they should be. So Miss Kotake definitely was one that made an impact on me. And Mr. Asperis, I think in physics, it was a super challenging class, and he was a very gruff, man.
Yep.
But he was an excellent teacher, and I learned so much from him. And again, it was like that relationships. I remember he used to give little stickers, like on our tests or assignments. If you did well, you get a sticker, and it was like you're comparing with other people, like how many stickers you had. Like we put it on our folder, and I just had like so much respect for him, and I know he was a coach as well. But yes, he had a great impact.
I think he kind of took his coaching mentality to the classroom.
Yeah.
and you really had not just it was a friendly competition, those stickers
Yes.
and all those things, but yeah, that was kind of his charm, even though it was a little gruff.
Yeah.
Lastly, I think we can't end without putting a pitch for the Alumni Association. You are the president of the Alumni Association. And, it's talk to folks about, it's not super huge, but it's been going strong now for over a decade. And how do they get involved, I guess? So maybe a little bit about the organization, how they can get involved.
Like Fred said, it's a small organization. We do have a Facebook page, so we try and disseminate information. So anytime there's a reunion, or if you're trying to look for someone, or if you are seeking information, or we post a lot about our alumni who are doing great things, they want to shout out. We do share that information on Facebook. But the reason kind of why I wanted to start the Alumni Association was to give back to our students, and the one way that we can give back to our students is in the form of a scholarship. And so I can't remember what year, 2011 maybe,
Somewhere around
something
there.
like that.
Yep.
When we first started giving scholarships, and we've been able to give scholarships every year since then. And so we have done very simple fundraising opportunities with selling shirts. We've also provided when we had the carnival, when we brought back the carnival, we provided people, manpower to help with the carnival. And so we're always looking for new ways to kind of get our community involved. Mililani's still relatively young.
Yeah.
I feel young. We're kind of old. We're still a pretty young school. I feel like the first several graduating classes are now just retiring.
That's right.
Right? And so, if we can get maybe them to come back, a lot of my own students, their parents were my classmates, and so I think we're at a point where we can get a lot more alumni to maybe do a little bit more. So you can always give me a call here at high school.
Sure.
You can email us, you can send a message,
Find you on
Facebook.
Facebook. Yep.
Yeah. We're always looking for new ways to spark some interest and support for our alma mater.
Thank you for watching today's video. Please subscribe to Mililani TV to keep up with more interviews about our amazing school.